guys, I'm Heidi Kemper, psychic medium.
Hi everyone, I'm Cathy Metry, psychic intuitive, and welcome to Scorpio Rising. So everyone, we have an absolutely wonderful special guest. As a matter of fact, I grew up watching him on TV, and his name is Robert Taylor. We cannot wait for you to hear all about the wonderful adventures of Robert. But before we start, I have to say, Miss Heidi, you had a birthday yesterday. Happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Can you just kind of look to your left there behind the candle? And there's a gift.
Oh, you stinker.
So I just wanted you to open it while we're here. It's so fun.
Of course, she's got it
I just
wrapped.
had to do it.
You got it wrapped gorgeous as usual.
Of
Beautiful
course.
wrapping, and actually matches my dress. So how did you know?
I didn't. I'm so excited.
All right, I will open it for the camera. Beautiful cheetah paper. You know what's funny? In my meditation the other day, I had a big cheetah. Remember that meditation we did together and there was that cheetah?
Yes, that was amazing.
Powerful, powerful meditation that was. Okay. Ooh, beautiful. Oh my goodness. Wow. Beautiful.
It's all, that's a beautiful moonstone surrounded by diamonds. And I have to tell you, I figured what a celebration, because we have the summer solstice party coming up.
Yes.
At Duffy and Company.
Yes.
And I am so excited, and it is a full moon, but I was dying to give you your birthday gift. And happy birthday, young lady.
I absolutely love it. A moonstone. I've always wanted one. You know how special the moon is to me. I'm like, you're a moon girl. Never get sick of the moon. Never. You know, I always know what cycle we're in, where we're at, when it's going to be full, when it's waxing, waning. So the moon is super special to me. So thank you. I will always cherish it.
So Heidi, without that, I would like to go right into interviewing our special guest, Robert Taylor.
Let's do it.
And welcome, Robert.
I want to say I love your name of your show, Scorpio Rising, especially because I'm a Scorpio.
Oh my gosh, that's perfect. I'm so happy.
And we're both Scorpio risings.
And Heidi is in such a good time astrologically because Jupiter just entered Gemini.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're going to be in such a good, this is your best year probably in the last 12 years.
Oh, yes. It's been a wonderful year. Wonderful year.
And the key word coming up between now and this time next year is initiate. So anything you start, anything you begin, you're going to be blessed by Jupiter.
Wonderful.
It's like the cosmos saying, it's gift time. What do you want?
I want that.
And how many do you have? Just the one sun in Gemini or more than the one planet?
Mercury is also in Gemini, which is hilarious.
That's why you're a TV host.
Yep.
Yeah. Good talker.
Yes, you've always told me that.
Oh, great. Yeah. I love it. I love it all.
And Robert, I grew up watching you on TV. So for you to be here, it's so amazing. I'm so honored to have you. And so Robert, I know you spent most of your life as a scholar and a teacher in the ancient Vedic philosophy and a practitioner of Bhakti Yoga. So you lived as a Vedic monk for 7 years, based in India. And I know you've been the featured speaker worldwide and a frequent writer in all of the metaphysical journals. And you hosted several media shows, which I absolutely loved seeing, and I probably watched every one of them. And one was Spirits in the Material World and Out of the Ordinary into the Extraordinary. So I love that. I love that one. And you are also the author of Into the Mystical Ancient Wisdom of Our Troubled Times. I can't wait to ask you about that.
Thank you.
And I grew up watching you. So Robert, welcome. And I guess my first question is, I want to know about what led you to spend the time that you did as a Vedic monk, and
Yes.
what happened and what was it all about? Please share.
But before you go into that, can you explain what a Vedic is, Vedic philosophy, for those of
Yes.
us that are not as familiar?
So the Vedas are the oldest books in the world. They were written over 5,000 years ago. And the word Veda literally means knowledge. So the Vedas contain knowledge of both the material and the spiritual. And you'll be amazed to know, for instance, back in those times, over 5,000 years ago, they knew about subatomic particles. They would calculate time, their time system, literally from the movement of one atom from one space to the next. They talk about millions of material universes in God's creation. They talk about the higher planets in our universe, lower planets. In fact, it's described that the Earth planet is right in the middle. It's a middle system. So there are higher planets where you can go after you leave this body. That you could describe them as heavenly. You can live for thousands of years in a beautiful ethereal form. The Vedas tell us beyond the material, there is a spiritual world. And that spiritual world is known in Sanskrit as Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha means no anxiety. So there's no birth, there's no death, there's no old age, there's no disease, there's no misery at all caused by the natural phenomenon, other living beings, or the body and the mind, because in that atmosphere, you are in your original spiritual being. And of course, many of us do yoga. Yoga's from the Vedas. People are becoming more and more familiar with Ayurveda, the ancient system of Vedic medicine. They literally, you can go to Oakland University and they have copies of the Vimana Shastra, which is telling you how to build an airplane.
Wow.
Wow.
The concept of zero comes from the Vedas. And in fact, the numerical 1 to 9, 1 through 9, those actually are the different planets also. It's connected to the planets.
Interesting.
And the science of astrology is from the Vedas. My own guru used to say, it takes 20 years of study to become expert, 10 years to become bogus.
Yeah.
So they're amazing. And there's hundreds of Vedic literatures. And again, I think for somebody who's not so much into the spiritual, but material knowledge, they would love the information. I was watching the History Channel the other day, and there was a panel of expert metaphysics teachers. And so one of them mentioned, one of the Vedas is called the Agastya Samhita. That Agastya Samhita, I've had experienced twice, where your whole life is written down. The great sage Agastya saw your life before you lived it and wrote it down. But part of that Agastya Samhita tells you how to build a battery. So they took the information to the University of California, Davis, to a scientist. He took the information, built the battery, and then he said, you know what? This could send a human being 10 feet in the air.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Robert, how did you stumble upon this? And growing up, did you grow up in a spiritual home, in a religious home? Like, how did you stumble upon this? Because I'm not really familiar. You know, I've been studying spirituality probably a good half my life, and I'm not as familiar with the Vedic philosophy.
Well, they're of course in India, and a good friend of mine right here in Detroit, he's written 53 books on the Vedic knowledge, and he is discovering more and more that the Vedic culture all those years ago was all over the planet.
Okay.
My own discovery happened when I was around 20 years old. My body is now 73, and therefore I'm a baby boomer.
Yes.
And I was in the European version of San Francisco.
Okay.
That would be Amsterdam.
Yes.
Yes. Amsterdam, and I could see it was 1970, and I could see the hippie culture was not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And those of us who wanted to go further, we got into spirituality.
Love it.
And I was reading a book by what was his name? Anyway, it's called The Perennial Philosophy, and he was making references to the Vedas. And at that time, I had a very profound experience. I can remember still, it was in August of 1970, and I was reading, Aldous Huxley is the author. And I was, after reading the information, he was talking all these, he just took quotes from different religions, great saints, trying to discover the truth. And in the Sanskrit language, spirit or the soul is called Brahman. Brahman, just like the priest in India is called the Brahmin.
Right.
He's supposed to have realized Brahman. So I'm walking along the street, lovely canal, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks that the self, the real Robert, the permanent Robert, wasn't the material body, that I was the soul in the body. And I was so thrilled. And I realized throughout the day, that realization didn't come from me. That had to have come from something within me, higher than me. So when I got home that night to my apartment, we had a Buddha, and we had this picture of this beautiful being on the wall with a cow. And so I brought some flowers and I offered them to the Buddha, but I was thinking I'm actually offering them to this beautiful being with the cow. And that happened to be Lord Krishna. It was a beautiful picture of Krishna. So the story goes on. So I decided there and then I'm going to go to India, and I'm gonna maybe hopefully become a monk. So I went back to London to make some money, and there's a part of Chelsea, and it's called the World's End. Literally the World's End. It's in Chelsea, London, at the end of the King's Road. And I walked into this bookstore, and it was called Gandalf's Garden, very hippie.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, Gandalf's Garden. I walked up to the first bookshelf. The first book that I saw was Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita means a song of God, and it was spoken by Lord Krishna 5,000 years ago. And it is considered to be the essence of all the Vedas. If you just study Bhagavad Gita, I would recommend As It Is the very best version by Bhaktivedanta Swami. And I read that book and I was off, you know.
Love that.
And yeah, at that time, of course, George Harrison really got into the Eastern philosophies, and he was playing Eastern music. So I went back to Amsterdam, and I met a great group of Welsh guys, and one of them had gone off, cut his lovely hair, because I said, "Where's Phil?" And the guy said, "Oh, he's gone to live in an ashram, and he's cut off all his hair, and he has a guru, and the guru is 24 hours of the day absorbed in God." And so anyway, through meeting him and the people from the ashram, I decided I was going to become a monk. So shaved off all that long hair.
Wow.
And gave up, you know, the hallucinatory stuff, hash.
No more wacky tobacco, none of it?
What's that?
No more wacky tobacco, none of
No,
it?
no, nothing. Yeah, so...
You kicked Mary Jane to the curb.
What's that?
You kicked Mary Jane to the curb.
That's right. And yeah, so yeah, gave everything up. Smoking, became a celibate, was eating pure vegetarian food, and what was the other one? No gambling. And so the idea of that, and then also chanting the holy names of God is the process. You purify your consciousness. And consciousness, according to the ABC of metaphysical knowledge, consciousness is not a material product. Consciousness is the energy of the soul. And the soul, it is said, we are an infinitesimal soul, according to the Vedas. They actually give us a measurement that you take a tip of your hair, you divide it into 10,000 parts. 1/10,000th the size of the tip of the hair is the dimension of the self, the soul.
Wow.
But this is not poetry. It is said that you, the soul, are 1,000 times more powerful than the sun. But
Wow.
due to lifetimes of material conditioning, our original pure consciousness has become covered. And my guru used to give the example, it's like layers of an onion. So there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita, the working senses are superior to gross matter. The mind is superior to the senses. The intelligence is superior to the mind. But above them all is the transcendental soul.
Wow.
And that soul is immeasurable, it's invisible, inconceivable. It's beyond the scientists. So Einstein, Heisenberg, any of these great scientists, brilliant as they were, they're not gonna discover that soul because it is not material. But we can perceive it by simply purifying the consciousness. And that's what we call self-realization.
So Robert, I'm sorry, I have to go back to, how do you go from partying in Amsterdam
I love it.
to I'm gonna become a monk and move to India? So like, how does that go down? Like, do you call your family and friends and do you say like, hey guys, just so you know, I'm going out, I'm out, see you? Can you be in touch with your family and friends? Is it like the priesthood or nunnery?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love growing up Catholic.
Yeah.
You take a vow and everybody knows you're going, and then like, how does it work? I need detail.
Yes. So you do the vows, yeah, and the guru, I connected with Bhaktivedanta Swami, who is absolutely, he was like living with Jesus. He was absolutely a pure being. Whatever came out of his mouth was pure knowledge. He himself, in India, they call the guru also a charya. A charya means one who teaches by example. So he doesn't tell you to do something that he doesn't do himself.
Right.
And so he was born into a pure, very divine family. And so he was raised that way. And then he met his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, his name was. This Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was so brilliant, he could read a page of Sanskrit and quote it immediately. He was a lifelong celibate. We have to say it, he never once passed semen in his whole life. And the yogis of India say, if you do that, that semen goes up to the brain. And so he was an absolutely brilliant being. And they're coming, you can trace the line way back to the beginning of creation. You can trace the line of gurus. So I was so fortunate to meet him. I don't know what my life would have been like. And he passed away in 1977. He still comes to me in dreams.
I love that.
Yeah, and he's usually telling me off.
What's he telling you off about?
That I'm not really following like I should, But go back in the early 90s, I met this great psychic. Her last name was Gardner, Carla Gardner. She was from Plymouth. Anyway, this entertainment agent introduced us. She said, you guys got to do a swap or something. So I went over to her house. We're sitting in the kitchen, and she says, Robert, you've got this beautiful gold being coming out of your head. And I'm getting the name Srila. Well, we used to call him Srila Prabhupada.
Wow.
I said, is there somewhere where you do this? I got my own special little room. She says, yeah, I got a room. Let's go in the room. And like you ladies probably have your special seats, right, where you do the readings. So she says, you know what, Robert? I can't eat this being is so holy. I can't even sit on the seat. I gotta sit on the floor. She sat on the floor. She said, did he speak in parables? I said, yeah, he used to quote lots of verses. She says, no, I'm not seeing. She says, I'm seeing the verses. He wrote lots of books. And actually he's in the Guinness Book of Records. He wrote the most books, like 80 volumes in 12 years. So she says, he really likes what you're doing, going out and sharing the knowledge. But he's saying, try not to water it down. Give it as it is, And he even called his Bhagavad Gita as it is. So anyway, he appeared to me at that time, so he comes in dreams also.
I love that.
So what kind of sacrifices did you make when you were actually a Vedic monk? What kind of, you would wake up, and what was your day like?
Okay, so we would wake up about an hour before dawn. And in the Vedas, dawn up until about 7 in the morning, it's called Brahma Muhurta. And it literally means the song of the time of God. So you get up and it's so peaceful. Yeah. And of course you're in India. And the peacocks are crowing and the jasmine flowers are blossoming. Oh. And it was absolutely beautiful. But my mission is not just living in the monastery. In my tradition, we go out and we share the knowledge.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I met, and it was such a meeting. I met with a Swami, Rabati Nandan Swami, Actually, he was an American, and he went to UC Berkeley. He was brilliant at physics, but the guy was such a brilliant speaker. So it ended up that, with India as the base, I would go out, travel to different parts of the world, go to colleges and arrange speaking engagements for him. So I did that for quite a while. Then when I was in India, I was learning about the Indian form of drama. And there's so many beautiful stories. So I finally was invited to came back to the UK, and I started a theatre company. And we would travel around Europe doing theatre. It was kind of a cross between Monty Python. We would do those kind of skits, and then doing the original Indian stories.
I love
we traveled to Northern Ireland during the Troubles, and different places. And then I used to MC this spiritual festival called Rath Yatra. They had a huge Rath Yatra in London, so I was the MC, and a guy from the States, who was actually one of the best friends of the Beatles, Mukunda Maharaj, his name is. So he invited me in 78, 79 to come and MC a festival in LA on the beach. And they had a TV called ITV in Hollywood. And they asked me to interview this Swami on the show. And then 83 came along.
Hold on, pause.
Yeah.
Rewind. The Beatles, what? You met somebody who's good friends with the Beatles? Can you go back to that? Sorry. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, so Mukunda and Shamasunda were basically, if you get to meet George and ask him, Shamasunda was his best friend.
Wow.
And if you watch the new Get Back, with the Beatles,
Yeah,
there's a couple of monks chanting. Did you see it?
no.
Yeah, there's a couple of monks in the corner when they're recording. That's Shamasunda and Mukunda.
Oh, wow.
Way.
Yeah. That's
So you
Mukunda.
got to meet and rub shoulders with all of those. That's awesome.
Well, what movie was that?
What is that?
What was that? What was that, a video that they're in, or
they're in the new, the Get Back movie. It's called Get Back, where it's showing the Beatles.
We've got to watch it.
Yeah, they have it at the library.
We have to watch
the monks. So anyway, I ended up being the president of the. It's called Bhakti Vedanta Manor. It's outside London. George donated the beautiful house. It's a mock Tudor.
George Harrison. George Harrison.
George from the Beatles, yeah. Well, he is also a disciple of my guru. So he donated this whole house. So I got to be the president there at the place. Now it's amazing. It's absolutely, they've taken over practically the whole village. So when my guru passed away, one of my good friends wrote a biography about him. And of course, for 3 months, Prabhupada stayed with John Lennon and Yoko at their house.
Wow.
And so there's a couple of books about him talking to John and Yoko. And then also, George had his place. So very kindly, this friend of mine who wrote the biography took me to John's place. And then, as the president of the ashram that George had donated, Unfortunately, I went twice to George's house. Unfortunately, there were always times when we'd, let me say the word, pissed him off. Yeah, I know I would have got on very well with him otherwise by the astrology. But yeah, so yeah, we were kind of eating humble pie, saying, you know, sorry we did this, you know, but yeah. So I went to George's too. Yeah, he's a wonderful, humble. When he left his body in California, he brought the two of these guys in to help him leave his body.
Wow.
Yeah, so they were with him when he was at the lake. I think he was at the Lake Shrine in California, which is connected to Paramahamsa Yogananda.
So John and George followed the Vedic philosophy.
Yes.
Wow.
Mostly more George, but they were in Greece on holiday for like 3 days. They would go out in a boat and chant Hare Krishna in the boat. And, you know, John was really into it, not so much Yoko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When my guru was at the Tittenhurst Park, John would be with everybody chanting.
Wow.
Then you'd hear Yoko up the stairs. Come on, John, time for bed.
Oh my gosh. I that would just be such a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Yeah, I went there in the late 70s and it was still, you know, they painted the whole place white and it was still white.
Wow.
Beautiful story about my guru. He would go for a walk every day in the grounds. So John had a sound engineer helping him record, and the guy was living with his wife in what would probably have been the gardener's cottage. So one morning he stops my guru and he says, Swamiji, do you guys believe in ghosts? He said, absolutely, they're everywhere. Ghosts are everywhere. He said, I've had a warlock come in. My house is infested. It's so horrible. We can hear chains in the night, and my wife, it feels like she's getting pulled. He says, oh, we can help you, no trouble. He said, I'll send my students, and they will have a kirtan, which is a congregational chanting of the holy names. And I had a very good friend who was there at the time. It was 1969. And he said they were chanting for about half an hour, really heavy atmosphere. And all of a sudden, it just became completely lifted and free. And the ghost gone. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I got involved in the paranormal world this year, Robert. You and I kind of talked about that a little bit. And have you had any experiences with the paranormal, any ghosts or any experiences yourself?
Yeah, I found, especially when I was in my 20s, that I actually had some possession.
Wow.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Even when I was in the ashram.
Really?
Yeah. And in India, oh my gosh, in India, because they're all over the place, and some very powerful ghosts. They're called Brahma Rakshas in India, and they're priests, powerful spiritual priests who've done some bad karmic thing, and they've ended up as a ghost.
Oh.
But I was the place I was talking about outside of London that I was the president of. I'm going to be this is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, being a monk, you know, so one night I'm sleeping there in this place, and all of a sudden, and then is it the incubus or the succubus?
Succubus.
What's the female?
The female is a succubus, and the male's an incubus.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, there I am, and I'm having astral sex.
Yeah. Hey, I've heard that it happens. I've heard
Yeah.
that. Mhm.
Yeah,
Wow.
so what I did was to get rid of this entity, I just, what you do is you chant the holy name of God and they're gone.
Right.
Another night, three of us came back late from an engagement, three of us monks. We didn't want to go to the early morning meditation. So we went in this room and we lay down different parts of the room. All of a sudden, this thing's, I'm being possessed again. And you can't say anything. So you just have to mentally chant the name. And the next guy in the other corner of the room, he screams out. And then the next guy, and we had a guest that night at the manor, and he left in the middle of the night. He saw like a vampire.
Wow.
Yeah. And how about this? The house itself and the village were used in the original Village of the Damned movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So pretty wild. In India, oh my gosh, yeah, it was on the astral plane. There's another type of very vicious ghost called a Rakshasa. And I've been reading about these in the Vedas. That very night, I was reading about these different types of ghosts. So I think they were telling me, oh yeah, we exist, all right.
Yeah.
So I was being chased on the astral plane by this Rakshasa, and I was saved by the temple bell. The temple bell woke me up and relieved me.
Wow.
But I could go on for a lot of stories about these entities.
Yes, that's amazing. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about was your TV shows. So those of you, the viewers on here who are not familiar with the area in Michigan, Robert was a local celebrity and was on the cable or local cable show channel. And I would watch them, but I wasn't as into spirituality at that time. So I wasn't as familiar. But local celebrity, can you tell us about your shows? And can you kind of touch on how you were received back in the 80s and 90s? Because that was around 80s and 90s, right?
Yes, it was right up until about 3 years ago.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was just until recently. Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I actually did it. I did it for 25 years.
Robert, I didn't know that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, 25 years. It's amazing how I got these shows actually. I have a whole background, even back in London. I would be chosen like the PR guy if the BBC came around or ITV. I did shows like that. And then I went on in LA, 83, I worked for, it's called ITV, doing metaphysical stuff. But it's crazy. When I came here in January 1984. And I'd been here maybe 2 or 3 months. And I got a call from a guy from Ann Arbor. And he said, I'm calling on behalf of WCBN, Radio Ann Arbor. Would you like to do a show? I mean, I don't even know how he got to know, about me. So I did that. It was called Spirits in the Material World on the radio. I love the radio, actually. I like the radio kind of more than I do the TV.
Right.
And then we got to do one at the University of Windsor, out at Michigan State University. And then there was a lovely lady I used to do classes at the War Memorial.
Yes, that's how I met you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Amy Potter, she was the director of the WMTV out of the War Memorial. She says, you want to do a show? Yeah. So I've never, ever really gone out and asked to do the show. They just came.
Robert, how did you start doing, readings? I mean, were you doing
the readings?
Yes.
Yeah. So the Vedas, they have whole scriptures on palmistry, on astrology. So I got hold of a scripture called Hast Samudrika Shastra. Hast means hand, palm. And so I studied that. There's thousands of things on the palm. I studied Vedic astrology, but not really. I don't consider myself that good at a Vedic astrology, but I've really studied the Western astrology. But mostly from the Vedas.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was assuming you did Vedic,
Yes.
but you're more Western.
No,
okay.
I do a technique which you've experienced, Heidi, called the Brigu.
Yes.
Yes, the Brigu Yantra.
Yes.
And what is that? Is that a form of reading?
That is a reading, yes. And my guide is Brigu.
Yes.
My guide is Brigu. So in the Vedic tradition, the 7 great sages, there are 7 great sages who are the source of the Vedic knowledge. And the scriptures say each one of these 7 sages was directly blessed by God that they could sing the destiny of any soul.
Wow.
Yes. So I'm reading the Vedas. I come upon references to Brigu. So I've experienced the Brigu Samhita and the Agastya Samhita. I've had 1 reading from the Brigu Samhita and 2 from the Agastya. And they do it either, if you have to have your exact birth details, if they do it through your astrology. Otherwise, they take your thumbprint, first initial of your name, and there's a priest in the library. You don't know how long that info has been in the library. So he tells you come back in a couple of days, and he's sitting with these thin strips of palm wood, which is what they used to write on before paper. So in my case, first time I did it through the astrology, then I did 1 through the thumb, and then another 1 through the astrology. So he's sitting there with these thin strips of palm wood. In my case, your name is Robert. Your mother's name is Florence. Your father's name is Eric. Eric was a tire builder. Yeah. They go right through your life. The 8th chapter you don't have to do because they tell you, right, it's all written in Sanskrit. They tell you upcoming health challenges, and the remedies are usually spiritual. And they also tell you when you, the soul, are going to leave your current body. They also tell you who you were in the past life.
Oh my gosh.
Who were you in a past life?
Oh, yeah.
I know, I can't help it.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to finish how you started readings, but I mean, let's just digress for 1 minute. Who were you in a past life?
So, yeah. People think I'm a bit loony, but I wasn't on this planet in my past life.
Okay.
And it's a planet that is actually described in the Vedas.
Okay. Awesome.
So anyway, the first time I did it, the priest said, I've been waiting for you, and I'm going to make something and initiate you, and you'll use this in the West. So that's what I use. And it's called the Brigu Yantra. It means the instrument of Brigu. So Brigu becomes your guide.
Wow.
He's doing the reading. I'm just, So I do mantras to Brigu, to my guru, to God, as I ask about you, and then I cast the planets. I have the planets, and I cast them onto a mirror, which is the North Indian. There's a North Indian astrology chart design on the mirror, and wherever the planets come in the 12 houses, that's how we predict. We can even tell people how somebody's doing on the other side.
Yeah. It's amazing. I've had readings from you, and I always record them, and every now and again I'll go back and listen, and some of the stuff at the time, you know, hadn't come to fruition yet and has come. I mean, it's extremely accurate, and it just, you know, there's so many different ways of exploring that. And so it's just, I've never gone to any, I mean, you're one of a kind for sure. For sure.
Thank you so much. You know, Matthew McConaughey was on The View. He'd come back from India, taking his wife to India, making a movie, and he heard about the library, and he was just going nuts. He said, unbelievable. There's no way, even though I'm a famous person, that they would know the detail.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. I had a woman at the time, back in the early 2000s. You remember the Phenomena News? It was a metaphysical newspaper. I used to write for the Phenomena.
Yes,
yeah,
I do.
And they had a festival, Body, Mind, Spirit Festival.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm on their radio show because the next day I'm going to be speaking about reincarnation. So I mentioned Brigu. So I'm giving the talk. This woman walks in the room. She said, and I could see she was eager to talk. So she says, I heard you on the show. There's a guy in town at the Parashakti temple in Pontiac, and you got to meet him. You have to meet him. And the president of the temple wants to meet you anyway. Oh my gosh, what a connection we had. His name was Professor A.N.K. Swami, and he did it not the Brigu, but Agastya. He was from the south of India, and as a little boy, 9 years old, his father was a famous astrologer. This naked yogi walks up to him in the temple. It's a Divine Mother temple in South India, and he says, "You are going to possess this case. It is full of palm woods, telling people's lives and futures. Your father's a famous astrologer. Learn all the astrology you can. When I leave my body, you are going to be owning this." So This is Professor A.N.K. Swami. Have you
and
heard
he's
of
naked.
Ravi Shankar?
And he's naked?
Huh?
And he was naked?
Yeah, usually they wear a little thing, you know. Yeah, you know, dreadlocks.
Of course, Kathy's going to pick up that part.
I
Sorry.
couldn't help it. I mean, was he good looking?
Yeah.
I didn't say
in
that.
India, the yogis are usually naked. Nobody turns up. Yeah. So anyway, this is this Professor A.N.K. Swami, and he had predicted the Parashakti temple in Pontiac. Wow. Yeah. At the time, the founder of the temple, he was a doctor, atheist. He just went to see this guy as a bit of a joke. And he told him, "You're going to found a Divine Mother temple. It's in a place called Pontiac. And the property will be between a railway line and a stream."
Wow.
And that's exactly where it was. So when I had my TV show, I interviewed him.
Fascinating.
I interviewed him, and his English wasn't great. His daughter used to translate, and I suddenly realized he's showing me the palm wood where the Parashakti temple is predicted.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Pretty amazing.
How long have we got?
I know, I was just going to say, as a matter of time, we could talk all day. You've lived an extraordinary life, Robert. I mean, extraordinary stories. I could listen to you talk all day. I think one of the things I would like to just wrap up with is just a little, maybe as far as astrology, maybe a forecast for the general collective between now and the end of the year. What do you think?
I would love to do that, but I do want to just circle back, and I just want a really brief about your book, Into the Mystical Ancient Wisdom for Our Troubled Times. And because I think our audience, they've been very excited you're coming on. And so can you just give us a tidbit about what the book is about and where we can get it?
So
okay.
Unfortunately now it's not in print, but you can get it electrically.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, you can get it on Kindle. And probably I'm sure there's versions out there, you can pick them up on Amazon, you know.
Okay.
Right.
But basically, I took all that Vedic knowledge and I try to make it as simple as possible for people to understand. It starts out explaining how we are the eternal divine soul. It talks about, of course, karma, reincarnation. It talks about non-violence. And even the last chapter is about how we can have a peaceful world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fab?
I was very fortunate at the time when I was writing the book. Marianne Williamson was in town, and so she gave me a beautiful review.
Oh,
You know?
wonderful.
Yes. Yes.
So coming up, I never really like to make predictions, but I can tell you the astrology chart of Donald Trump. So Trump has a very powerful sun in the 10th house. Somebody who has the sun in the 10th house, they're going to be a CEO. If you see it in the chart of a little baby, you can tell this little baby is going to be a CEO.
Yeah.
They're going to be famous. He does have the north node of the moon, which is where eclipses happen, conjunct the sun. And in Vedic astrology, they say this soul has out of control false ego. Real ego is I am the soul. I'm an eternal servant of God. That's our real identity. False ego is I am this body. Yeah. So he has that in his chart.
Wow.
He then also has Uranus conjunct the sun. So he's not going to do things the way everybody else does. He's going to be like a revolutionary type. Yeah.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, Mercury square Neptune.
Ooh.
In London, the Cockneys would say, he tells porcupines. He lies. Yeah, and he believes it.
He believes
So that
it.
would not be my choice, voting for somebody like that.
No.
A good friend of mine, she's a great astrologer. She does astrocartography also, which is finding out where the best place in the world to live for somebody is. Nancy Ballman. So she does this technique she's discovered with the influence of the moon. And it was like a graph. So Joe Biden, when he was the vice president, the line was on the down. Kamala Harris, right now, her line is on the up. And Joe Biden's moon line is on the up. So
So is it your prediction that Joe Biden is going to win the election?
I'm not gonna go as far as that because unfortunately, Trump is in a horrible time astrologically. We can see that with all the indictments, etc. He's in a terrible time. If my wife Pamela was here, she could describe the exact things. It involves T-squares and all sorts of things. Yeah. But he does have Jupiter.
I know, right?
He has Jupiter right around the time of that election. So it's going to be maybe a tight race.
It's going to be tight.
Yeah.
Trump has Jupiter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's a Gemini.
Yeah.
I have a very good friend. He's a local guy. He's a brilliant genius. He speaks 12 languages. When he was a professor in University of Uppsala, Sweden, they didn't know he wasn't Swedish, even though he was from St. Clair Shores. Yeah. He was the chief scientist at Chrysler. And he then transferred right around the time when Trump got in. He transferred to a big government department. He practically speaks to Joe Biden on a daily basis. And he says, don't be fooled. He's got his marbles. He's a very, very good man, very sharp. He's a Scorpio, so watch yourself. with with the moon in Aries. So all the time I've been in the United States, I've never seen stuff so crazy.
It is. It is. It is crazy.
And I'll quote from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a Vedic literature written over 5,000 years ago, predicting the time we're living in. And it's called the Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga means the age of Kali.
And it's repeating itself. Isn't that right? We're repeating ourselves. Yes.
Yeah. So Kali Yuga can be compared to the winter. And after the winter comes spring. So that's the golden age. Kali Yuga is Iron Age. Satya Yuga is called as Golden Age. Then there's the Treta Yuga, which is the Silver Age. And then there is the Dwapara Yuga, which is the Copper Age. This stretches some millions of years. But it's like our season. So we're in the Kali Yuga. That began 5,000 years ago when Lord Krishna left the planet. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, in the Kali Yuga, people have short lives, actually. They're quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Look around. Yeah.
Wow.
And one of the big predictions, back then they were all kings. There was no presidents. Kings will be thieves, and thieves will be kings. So that's what we're dealing with. It is said, it's predicted, people will have to travel all around the world to find work. People will be running to the mountains, being overtaxed. So, just like this is what the Vedas say. Just like an intelligent man, intelligent woman puts up the umbrella in a stormy time. So we have to take shelter of the spiritual life and transcend all the stuff. And the Vedas say if only 3% of the world were actually God conscious, they would change the whole atmosphere.
Exactly. That's what I was
Absolutely.
just going to say. I was just going to say that is everything you're saying. I'm totally aware of that. But at the same time, I feel like, and I don't have as much study behind me, but I just know what I feel as a spiritual being. I feel that we have that opportunity to make heaven on earth. We have that opportunity
Exactly
to bring the fifth dimension in. And it's people like you and me and Cathy and the producers of this show who are going to usher in the fifth dimension, usher in the new earth, usher in peace on earth. And so we just have to choose where we want to vibrate and bring as many people with us as we can.
Absolutely.
Although the Kali Yuga lasts for another 432,000 years, when Krishna was leaving the planet, he predicted 5,000 years from now, there'll be a 10,000 year mini golden age. So it'll be like the golden age. A couple of Vedic astrologers have forecasted that begins in 2040, around 2040.
Okay.
But for that to happen, my guru did say a lot of people will be taken off the planet.
Yes, I keep hearing that too.
And the people that are left, they will usher in this time. And I'm going to tell you, this time of the year, I do these all-night high school parties.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last 10 years, the kids have been amazing. It doesn't matter where I've gone, whatever income bracket the high school's in, there's something very special about the kids now.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I agree. And I will say this, if so many people are misunderstood on developing your spirituality and believing in God, right? But developing your spirituality to a higher vibration, to a higher level, does not mean that you're turning your back on religion.
Right.
It doesn't mean that at all. It means that you are personally developing your own spirituality so that you can be more godly and you can feel God more in your life and open up in a manner that allows you the intuitive knowledge to become one with the spirit world of God and love.
Yes. And the materialist would criticize us as being, woo. But actually it's the other way around. The material in the Sanskrit language, material nature is called Maya. Maya means that which is not. And why is it not? Because everything in this material world is temporary.
Yeah.
So this is physics. This material body of mine, all the atoms that are making up the body right now, 98.7% will change in 1 year. So how can you be this material body?
Right.
And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, just as the soul passes in this body from childhood to youth to old age, similarly the soul will pass into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. So we're talking about self-realization, that you can actually perceive yourself as the soul, and you can perceive, and the Vedas say, wherever there's consciousness, wherever there's life, there's a soul. So your little doggy, I saw your little doggy there. Your cat, the birds, the trees, there's a soul in that body.
Yeah.
And we talk about evolution of the soul. So the soul, that doggy's soul, he's right, it's close to human culture. Probably the next life is going to be a human body.
Yeah.
So
I was just talking about that yesterday with a client. I said, I feel like dogs are the closest animals to like humans, that's why, as far as like how our hearts and our souls show up, it's so similar. So it's funny you say that. And of course, Moby's like totally being a good star right now, and he's like being really cute. So
beautiful.
Well, listen, I hate to cut us short, but as a matter of time, I just want to thank you, Robert, for your amazing wisdom and knowledge. And I've always looked up to you, and just having you here is such an honor to Cathy and I, and we really appreciate you being here tonight. And tell us how clients can get a hold of you, or how they can set up a reading.
I'm an old guy, so I like the personal side of things. So give me a phone call.
Okay.
At 313-682-1569. I can text, or we have a email.
Yep.
Pamistar, PAMISTAR @att.net. Pamistar.
Old school is the best way,
It is.
I mean, it's easy. It's the easiest way to go. So I love it.
They have not simplified life with all this technology.
You're right. You're right.
I went to work downtown the other day doing an event. Oh my gosh, in the garage. It was one of those logarithms, I had to take a photograph. It was crazy. Absolutely.
Social security number.
I could talk to you all day. After this podcast, I'm picking your brain.
Yes, exactly. So, all right,
I
guys.
can't thank you enough.
All the best with your office. How's it going?
Wonderful. I mean, we love it. We love it. And it's close, and clients love it. You walk in and it's so positive. The energy in our office, it vibrates. It's so positive.
And that Duffy's store, that's a lovely store. I know the lady that owns Duffy's.
And you're coming, right?
You're coming.
So.
You are coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'd love you to come.
All right.
All right, we'll talk. All right, you guys, we'll see you next time.
Yes. Thank you, Robert. Bye-bye.
And I'm going to say, as a blessing to your show, Om Tat Sat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Bye, guys. See you next time.
Bye. See you all.